Okay, so I've lived in Bali for about 10 years and I'm going to be leaving soon. So one of the things I wanted to do before leaving Bali was to take a yoga teacher training course. And I was a bit nervous about taking this one because Damien in particular is a phenomenal teacher. He's been teaching for 30 years. He trained with Patabi Joyce, who created Ashtanga. He trained with Larry Schultz, who created Rocket Yoga. He trained with Richard Freeman, who is a very, very famous Ashtangi. He's so, and he's also sort of worked with sort of specialists in voice yoga. And so, really deep experience. So I was worried, particularly given that two of the people the two people I knew who were joining the course had already done teacher trainings, that it would be too hard. And I think I was also a little concerned because Andrea is a third series practitioner. She's licensed by Sharat to teach Ashtanga. I was a little concerned it would be too Ashtanga focused and again too hard. But anyway, people talked me into it. And it's been challenging, certainly, but absolutely accessible to any serious practitioner. You don't need to be super flexible. I'm not particularly flexible, and there were a couple of people on the course who have less flexibility than I do. You just need to have a passion for yoga and to be willing to learn across the discipline, from anatomy through to philosophy, through to meditation and chanting. So as a teaching course, it's really focused on helping you to become a teacher, because there are huge differences between your own personal practice and being able to teach. And I think what was wonderful was that we looked at 4 different styles of yoga. Rather than being trained in some kind of cookie cutter vinyasa sequence that you then roll out like every other yoga teacher on the planet, we were encouraged to create sequences that were entirely our own, for the groups that we'd be looking at teaching, for the context that we'd be looking at teaching in. And we got sort of hands-on practice and advice in developing these sequences. And I think what's really striking to me is that everybody on this course, including people like me who'd had no teaching experience, has quote unquote graduated with the ability to go out in the wild and deliver something unique and special that's particular to them. And I just don't think that's something that's easy to find in a Bali yoga teacher training course. We got pretty hands-on with alignment adjustment. Because we were serious practitioners, there wasn't too much of having to teach people poses. It was very much focused on getting to the essence of a pose, how to cue it, how to align yourself, and if you adjust, how to do so safely, both for the practitioner and for yourself. There was sort of good work on boundaries, physical, personal, professional. There was a life coaching component, which was very, very interesting. I suppose I was a little bit skeptical about the application of life coaching to yoga. And particularly on Bali, life coaching is something that you sort of get a lot of 25-year-olds who don't know what they're doing. And they're like, yeah, we're going to set up as a life coach. It's like, girl, you've not had your own life yet. But in fact, many of the techniques that we looked at, such as active listening, extremely transferable. A lot of the inner work of self-inquiry we did is important to the practice of teaching yoga. And in general, I think it tied in surprisingly neatly with both the more abstract philosophy we were doing. So we looked at Patanjali, we looked at the Bhagavad Gita, we looked at the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And so it integrated much more neatly into what was otherwise quite a classical yoga curriculum than I'd anticipated. So obviously Ubuntu is a beautiful environment in which to learn. You've got this lovely very open wooden shala, where you're looking out not onto rice fields exactly, but onto a pandan field. And then you've got a second smaller shala with a more intimate, but still very calm and tranquil energy. You've got the dog wandering around. You've got Nikki cooking her delicious vegan and vegetarian food. And of course, being a yoga teacher training course, everybody had their own food requirements pretty much. And she managed that so well. So, you know, there's a lovely pool. There's a lovely garden. You know, a very, very zen vibe. And you're close to, if you want the madness of Canggu, you're close to that, but you're really set away from it. You're sort of surrounded by the rice fields. You can't hear anything. You know, so it's, from that point of view, it's a beautiful place to spend 2 weeks or 4 weeks, however long you do it for. So I suppose another thing, yes, my own practice has improved very significantly, more than I'd expected, in fact, but in a different way. So it's much more about perhaps the internal stuff, the bandhas, the breathing, the drishti, the mindfulness, fine-tuning alignments rather than, yay, well, now I'm halfway through primary series, for me. But having that daily Mysore practice was pretty magical. But I suppose I want to emphasize, people think of Ubuntu as just being an Ashtanga shala. But it's much more than that. So Ashtanga was a very small component, what we did. And Damien in particular has very much moved away from the classical Ashtanga tradition. He's a bit of a rebel. And having that really thought through and free and considered approach is really quite magical, because Ashtanga can be so strict and so limiting and so rigorous, and there are lots and lots of injuries. And this is a more fluid, slightly more joyous approach, although really, really rooted, you know, he studied with Patabi, really, really rooted in the seeds of the practice. There's an Ashtanga component, but it goes much deeper than that. We actually looked at 4 different styles of yoga, one for each week of the course. The first one was Jessica Cha's gentle vinyasa krama approach. The second was Ashtanga. The third was inspired by Donna Fahy, integrative yoga. And the fourth was yin and restorative. And you can draw on components of all those traditions to put together something that's distinctly your practice in a way that you can't with Ashtanga.
Recommend?
I mean, I think you just need to have an established practice. I mean, that's literally all you need. You need to be going to yoga regularly. You need to be interested in it. You need to be aware of your breath. Perhaps you have a meditation practice. But no, I mean, you absolutely, I mean, there were second series Ashtangis on the course. I mean, there are people who can do amazing stuff. But I've been stuck at Mysore-style D for like about a year and a half. And it was very accessible for me. So the genesis of this course was, I'm a writer, and when ChatGPT came along, everybody was like, you're not going to have a job in a year. So I was like, what else could I do? And I was like, well, I like yoga, so why not retrain as a yoga teacher? And some of the skills that are involved in writing, that sort of putting words together, telling stories, is also sort of very much part of yoga. I also wanted to help my mother with some health issues through yoga, extending her lifespan. And I also found what I thought was a gap in the market for a specific type of yoga with older people. So my intention with the course was to develop my own practice, prevent injuries, try teaching out for size and see whether it was something I was good at and I wanted to pursue. And there was a fourth, but I've forgotten it. And at the moment, I think it's quite likely that I'm going to initially start working with sort of older people that I know. just to develop my understanding, my skills, and so on and so forth. And then I will look at building up a side business online, because online and one-to-one, because I understand how to work one-to-one. As a writer, online marketing and all that sort of stuff is easy for me. But, with that said, Damien's very much don't give up the day job, which is what they also tell you on writing courses. So if I stick just to teach, so a friend of mine wants me to come to her place in Spain and do some yoga with her. So yeah, I'm absolutely going to do that. How much income revenue I make from it at this stage is not particularly important to me.
Okay, I'm going to just answer this question.
Okay.
No, sorry, no. As I can see, do you feel inspired to teach after this course, generally?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I feel like I've got the confidence. I could start charging. I've got the confidence and the skills to teach diverse groups, to sort of cater to different abilities. It's called the courage to teach, and it has absolutely given me the courage to teach. So, Andrea and Damien, thank you for creating an absolutely wonderful month and going through what must have been an incredibly grueling schedule as a teacher. And huge shout out for Nikki for the amazing food as well.